which is the Department of Veterans Affairs. Ready, John? All right, welcome.
Morning.
Yeah, please proceed. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is John Spengler. I'm the Legislative Deputy Secretary for California Department of Veterans Affairs, Calvet. I have with me Kobe Peterson. He's our Homes Division Deputy Secretary for the Veteran Homes, and Roberto Herrera, who is our Veteran Services Division Deputy Secretary. We're here to answer your questions. Just briefly, Calvet serves all California veterans and their families. We have nearly 1.5 million veterans living in the state. Calvet strives to ensure that its veterans of every era and their families get the state and federal benefits and services to which they've earned. Calvet works to serve veterans and their families with dignity and compassion and to help them achieve their highest quality of life. In short, our goal is to make California veterans the most connected, protected, and respected veterans in the nation. At Calvet, we view transition from the military to veteran as an ongoing process, not one which only happens when veterans leave service. There's not time today to go into all of what we do at Calvet, but in summary, Calvet supports veterans with programs that are there at the moments that matter in their lives, from leaving service to seeking employment and education, connecting veterans with benefits, housing and home purchases, long-term care, and even when veterans pass, with veteran cemeteries. I'd like to end and turn it over to your questions and the items on the agenda with one last thing. At Calvet, we believe in a California for all. Calvet welcomes and strives to serve all veterans. It is a core belief with us that every veteran should be treated with dignity and respect, every veteran. Calvet's team is committed to ensuring veterans from all walks of life are not only seen and heard and celebrated, but they also have access to all of the benefits and services they've earned. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does Department of Finance wish to comment?
Isaac Arias, Department of Finance. No comment at this time.
And LAO? All right, questions or comments from members of the subcommittee? Senator Smallwood-Cuevas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. And I know we have a number of items to get through for Veteran Affairs, so I'm going to ask sort of a blanket question that applies to some of the other items here, but just for sake of time, raise it here. I noticed there is an investment in infrastructure and maintenance in a number of our veteran facilities and programs. My question is, how do we typically do that work? Is that work done by active duty military personnel when those kinds of infrastructure capital projects are done? How, and if not, if it's done through state of California, I'm curious if we use some of our same policies in terms of workforce equity and labor standards. As chair of labor, I often say when we are investing, and certainly we know that our veteran facilities need a lot of help and housing and repair, but when we make these investments, how are we seeing these as multipliers? And by that I mean, if we're going to, do HVAC repair, if we're going to do maintenance on some of our housing and facilities, are we using it as an opportunity to create apprenticeship opportunities? Are we instituting things like local hire so local residents can get an opportunity to participate, so that we're improving the infrastructure, but we're also creating some good jobs and some good pathways for people who need it in the communities that are supporting our various facilities. So I'm curious how you all do this work. Is it in partnership with unions? Is it in partnership with local communities? Because we just need to make sure every dollar we're investing, we're seeing it as a multiplier that lifts up Californians. So curious about the response.
Thank you, Senator. And I'll turn part of this over to Kobe Peterson because he has the Homes Division, but I will say the Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise contracting goal is a very big thing at Calvet. I mean, it's a statewide goal, but the 3% of state contracting go to disabled veteran-owned business enterprises, and that's something we observe. And my understanding is that we use the typical state contracting process in partnership with DGS for most of our any kind of significant infrastructure project. Kobe?
Good afternoon. Kobe Peterson, Deputy Secretary for Veterans Homes. I agree with John. We follow the state contracting manual for all of our capital outlay projects and our construction projects. Also utilizes the DVE program. Those are scrutinized very heavily, so we make sure that we're trying to be fair and equitable to all the bidders. But we don't specifically use the military. I'm trying to remember a time when we did that, other than an emergency crisis or something. Right.
I appreciate that, and I'm curious how many veterans, particularly those at risk of homelessness, have been employed in your maintenance and construction projects. Do you set aside those jobs for those individuals? Meaning, when you're using the state process, are you looking at things like local hire, things like criteria that would say, our veterans who are in most need, that they could actually do work and actually get a career pathway to, take them out of homelessness by helping to repair or maintain or build our veteran and military facilities in the state of California?
This is not one I know off the top of my head. I know that that there are things built into the state contracting process about the use of union labor, et cetera, but I don't know a great deal at the level of whether it gets down to, are we hiring people from the local community or not. I don't know if finance has anything to offer on that, but if it's a great question. And so if it's not something that we can answer for you today, I'll take it back and we will return and get you an answer.
Thank you. I would like to see that. I think that we're talking about the needs of our vets, and my mother is a veteran, and we know and at least in my area, we see our homelessness, we see a lot of veterans sleeping and dying, unfortunately, on the streets of LA County. And so where we are, whether it's building a cemetery, whether it's fixing a maintenance facility, whatever it is, how is the state of California, again, showing that we can multiply these funds by building that infrastructure, but also getting our veterans into opportunities that help take them out of precarious and dangerous economic situations. So I would look forward to seeing how many veterans we've employed by retrofitting, repairing, and building our military and veteran infrastructure in the state.
Senator, if I may, with just listening to your question and comments, going back a little bit to the DVB program at Calvet, we do implement a DVB first policy at the Department of Veteran Affairs. So every opportunity for contracting that goes out, our procurement staff do look at and try to find DVBEs, and of course certified small businesses as well, for participation in those contracting opportunities. Getting you an exact number on the number of veterans that have been employed that were some of those that are hardest to serve, that's something we can look into and try and get a number for the committee. I will say, though, that we're around a little over 11 years since the implementation of Prop 41 and the Veteran Housing and Homelessness Prevention Program. That program was $600 million in redirected home loan money from the department to build permanent supportive housing for veterans throughout the state. That program did have a 5% DVBE goal, with VHHP it was actually a 5% DVB requirement. So there has been millions of dollars in investment to disabled veteran business enterprises through the VHHP program. And in that program in particular, the DVBEs that participated had to show evidence of employment of veterans as well in that construction. And Again, to the members of the committee, I'd love to follow up on that and get you more details if you'd like.
Please, that would be great.
And then one final comment from the Veterans Homes perspective. We're proud to state that for the last several years, about 20% of our admits are homeless veterans. So that's a large number. We've never turned away a homeless veteran that has been sent to us from the community. We fight really hard to try to find places for those folks, appropriate locations. In some cases, they're not in the exact spot that they currently are at because we don't have a vacancy, but we work really hard to make sure we prioritize those folks.
And I'm appreciating that. I think there's more we can do, and I'm curious to see how our numbers are bearing out in terms of how many of our veterans, particularly those most at risk of homelessness and need, are getting opportunities. I think the business enterprise is one way, but certainly building workforce, because that's where you get the numbers. The number of workers, right, who are coming in, I think it's important for us to know that those opportunities are reaching our most vulnerable business owners, but also the potential workforce. But thank you.
Nancy, do you have more to add?
Sure. Randy Katz, Department of Finance. I just wanted to add that while your questions are great and valid, I think it might be directed for the Department of General Services, that there are public contract experts, and they will have more. They would have the most details related to veteran services, small businesses, local businesses.
And I know DGS is sort of doing most of the procurement, of course, but I am talking about in my view, this getting our veterans off the street, getting our veterans into homes, getting our facilities for veterans in the best standard possible. My sense is that would also mean the human infrastructure, right, and making sure that those most needy veterans have the greatest, opportunity. So, as you're asking for additional resources, $38 million, for example, for the construction phase of the steam distribution system and renovation, I think it's appropriate to ask that question in this hearing where these dollars are being requested, that we also understand what is the strategy and priority of our agencies in ensuring that our most vulnerable veterans have opportunity. But certainly we'll put that question to DGS, and I'm certainly the data will likely come from this department, but through partnership with DGS as well. So thank you for that.
All right, with that then, we'll since Senator Smallwood Cuevas already gave us the segue, we'll move to item 7, which is the Veterans Home of California. In Yountville, the steam distribution system renovation reappropriation.
Okay, thank you very much. This proposal, we're asking for a reappropriation of the $38,756,000 for the construction phase. We're well on our way through this process. We're at about 85%, close to 90% working drawings completion, hopefully by July. So what we're asking for is to shift in time the appropriation so that we can begin construction in the October-November timeframe. So this project replaces a antiquated system that was, I think, last addressed in the 1950s. It provides domestic hot water to the main campus. The main campus uses that hot water for showers, heating, and the like. It's been experiencing some failures over the years, by leaking, those types of things. It's part of the three-pronged approach to renovate the campus's central plant, which we've already done with new boilers, the chilled water loop with new chillers, and then this is the third part with the steam pipes. So, subject to questions.
Finance.
Isaac Arias, Department of Finance. Yeah, I would just note also that this was an approved project in 2022, so we're just seeking a reappropriation due to some delays with getting that construction started. So we expect it to be started later this year.
Thank you. And LAO?
Nick Schroeder with the LAO. We raised no concerns with the proposal.
All right. Yountville is a core part of my district. It's also the largest of the system here, and it's also incredibly old, as you've noted and hinted. I'm certainly supportive of doing this. I'm concerned about the delays that have occurred, and we have the legislature has appropriated funds for this project, for the theater, for other elements, and we need to get those on track, all of them. And it's one of the reasons when we get to item 9 on the deferred maintenance budget, I think we're going to be recommending today holding that open so we can continue to get additional detail. This is a site where the laundry room is completely unusable. The hospital floor continues to flood. There's no electricity parts of the time, and it's not PG&E. It's the on-site work. The chapel is unusable. The cemetery is not irrigated, and we were showing more respect to the gophers than to the men and women who are interred there. And probably the biggest challenge that we're facing at the home and in the general communities, the Yountville Veterans Home, as you know, is the operator of the dam and the reservoir there that provides water not only for the home but is the main water supply for the town of Yountville nearby. Both of which have been incapable of being able to maintaining that at a level of service and safety and public health that is needed. So we continue to have major challenges at the home. The steam distribution is an important step, but I'm looking forward to understanding more clearly as we take up the other item in the coming weeks exactly how it is that we're going to make the necessary progress in order to do right by the veterans that make Yountville their home. So.
Sure. I just would say we would invite you, Chair, and any of the members of the committee or of the legislature generally to come see Yountville because it is really unique.
Yeah.
It's 14 years old, and it's a jewel. But there are things to be done. So there's nothing quite like seeing it, and we're happy to do that at any time that's convenient for y'all.
All right. Be happy to host the other subcommittee members and Yountville as well. Okay, so the recommendation on this item, though, is approve as budget as it is a mere reappropriation of funds that were approved in the 2002 Budget Act. So we are about to go to votes, and so if we can take one more item up, and then we'll go on. So thank you. Now let's move to item 8, which is the administrative services staffing issue.
I can speak to this briefly. In short, the 2 most recent veteran homes, Reading and Fresno, were opened, and in addition, the department, particularly our Veteran Services Division, has grown significantly over time without commensurate increase in our administrative staffing folks. And so this request is in line with that to help us handle the new and increased workload that we have.
Thank you. Nance, LAO. Members of the subcommittee? All right, I'll just take a quick moment to gratuitously note that, and to pick up on a comment that Senator Smallwood-Cuevas made about an earlier item on cannabis control. Where there was a single associate governmental program analyst, which is the level 2 entry-level position in state government, trying to manage that entire new effort. Here, in headquarters, there's a single person in the same classification managing the budgets for 3 veterans homes in LA. I mean, these for folks who are not confident in the work that our state employees are doing and their efficiency and what they've been tasked with. I think these are a couple of examples. It's not to say that we don't need to be looking over this with a fine-tooth comb for 5 hours every week. We do, but these are folks in state service that are doing outstanding work and also doing a lot of it. So appreciate that. Are there any questions from the members of the committee? Okay, then I know Senator Smallwood-Cuevas is going to get on an airplane in a little bit. She's doing her best to line the schedule up at Southwest Airlines. Is in addition to charging for bags and everything else, is not aligning their schedule with our subcommittee hearings for some reason. We're working on it. So we're going to at least take some of our votes today, right now, before Senator Smallwood-Cuevas has to leave. And so before we do so, we're going to take public comment, both on the Veterans Affairs items other than deferred maintenance. So let's do them all. So item 1, item 7, item 8, and item 9 on Veterans Affairs. And then for the Military Department, item 2 and item 3, which is the active duty pay adjustment and Task Force Rattlesnake. Those were the items that were up for vote only. So are there any members of the public that wish to be heard on items 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, or 9? All right, seeing none, are there any comments from members of the subcommittee on those items or a motion? Let me first invite a motion on items 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7.
So moved.
Okay. Yes.
1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay.
What's that?
1, 2, 3, 5, 7.
1, 2, 3, 5, and 7?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that is the motion. Would you please call the roll?
On items 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7, Senator Cabaldon?
Aye.
Cabaldon, aye. Senator Nilo? Nilo, aye. Senator Smallwood-Cuevas?
Aye.
Smallwood-Cuevas, aye.
All right, then on item 8, and item 8 is the administrative services item we just heard. Is there a motion on that item?
So moved.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
On item 8, Senator Cabaldon?
Aye.
Nilo? Nilo, no. Smallwood-Cuevas?
Aye.
Smallwood-Cuevas, aye.
All right, that motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we're going to proceed to item 9, which is the Veterans Homes Deferred Maintenance.
In light of the airline delays, I'll make sure that we go through this fairly quickly. So in this budget proposal, we're asking for $819,000 annually to be added to our deferred maintenance program in our 8 veterans homes. The department currently has a deferred maintenance budget of $681,000, and this increase will bring our deferred maintenance budget to $1.5 million, which is a significant increase. As you all are, for the most part, well aware that we're dealing with some aging infrastructures, especially in our older 3 veterans homes. The Yountville Veteran Home was founded in 1884. And the majority of the buildings that are on that campus were built between the 40s and the 50s. I think we've had one building, with the exception of the theater, that was built since then. But as you can imagine, we're dealing with older infrastructure, older equipment, as witnessed by the STEAM project that we talked about. And it's an amazing facility. It's breathtaking, but yet it comes at a cost as well. We also have our 2 older homes, the Barstow and Chula Vista. Barstow is almost 30 years old. Chula Vista is coming up on 26, 27 years old. So they're starting to experience system issues and maintenance issues and repair items that are reaching their useful life as well. So this increase in funding will significantly allow us to do a better job of dealing with these critical infrastructure repairs and ultimately making a more safe and better well-being for our veterans and their care. So, subject to questions?
Finance first. LAO. Members of the subcommittee. Senator Nilo.
The total deferred maintenance is estimated to be $43 million. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, sir.
And the allocation being requested is $800,000?
Yeah, combined to the $681,000, which will give us $1.5 million to use annually going forward.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That'll take you about 26 years.
Yes, sir.
Right? It's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I think for me, the ancillary challenge there is that I just want to be clear that we're not creating the incentives to only deal with the tiny deferred maintenance items, which can be the case if both finance and this subcommittee later are like, why are you asking for $20 million for this necessary maintenance improvement when we've already budgeted you? We gave you a 50% increase in deferred maintenance, and of course, then you're only focused on the smallest items, and the small items definitely matter. Many of the ones I mentioned were The laundry room could probably be done for this allocation as an example, but I do think we want to make sure that we're not creating the expectation that this alone is going to meet the deferred maintenance needs. But then similarly, and this is the point I was raising before, so I do think that the role of the legislature and the Department of Finance in assuring accountability and progress and delivery, that's going to be the main question that we take up between now and the hearing when we take action on this. So. Your finger was at the ready for a bit. Did you have anything to add? Okay, all right. Okay, so we'll hold that item open and move on to item, so thank you to Veterans Affairs.
Thank you very much, sir.
And we now turn to the Military Department. So will a representative of the department please come forward?
Good afternoon already.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you. You ready?
Yes.
Great. So, Mr. Chair and members, I am Matt Beavers. I'm the Adjutant General of California. It's great to be with you today. Appreciate the opportunity to walk through our key budget items that are before you. I think I'll start out with a very brief overview of the Military Department. I think the Chair has not heard this pitch yet. You others have. So I have the absolute distinct pleasure of commanding about 18,000 of the finest sons and daughters of California. They're organized across 4 different business units, if you will, in the Military Department. We have the Army National Guard of California, the Air National Guard of California. We have a small volunteer auxiliary, which we call the California State Guard, which is different than the National Guard. And then we have a Youth and Community Programs Task Force. And I'll start from the last and work back. The Youth and Community Programs Task Force manages and runs 3 distinct in-resident, last chance, if you will, charter schools, 3 across the state. Fully subscribed, 200 to 300 per class, 2 classes a year. So across those 3 organizations, we're also responsible for a program called Starbase. That's serves about 3,600 students a year across 4 different campuses, and that is essentially an after-school STEM program that is wildly oversubscribed and hugely popular. Our California State Guard really does kind of all the work that we can't, or won't do. So I used to talk about that. They are true volunteers. They get unpaid, and they manage a lot of the back-end processes for us, and they are extraordinary in every respect. In our Air National Guard, we're responsible for the air defense of the Southwest United States, and the 144th Fighter Wing in Fresno ensures that our adversaries do not approach our borders from the air. We also have a rescue wing, which is responsible for rescuing sailors at sea, sometimes as far as 1,000 miles off the coast of California. And they are exceptional in every respect. We also have a C-130J wing down in Channel Islands, which we refer to as a Hollywood Guard. And we also have an attack wing. That's an MQ-9 Reaper-equipped wing, and it's currently in service across Southwest Asia. They fly every day. They fly those drones every day from their trailers in Riverside. That equipment is launched and recovered in theater and is flown by California Air National Guardsmen. And then finally, as I mentioned before, the 144th Fighter Wing. And then lastly, we have an intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance wing at Beale Air Force Base. And they manage a lot of the space work that we do. We provide offensive, defensive space control. We manage the Milstar satellite system, and that all occurs in the California Air National Guard. In the Army National Guard of California, we have the 40th Infantry Division Headquarters. We have the 79th Infantry Brigade Combat Team, the 224 Sustainment Brigade, and I can go on and on. About 12,500 great soldiers that in any given day, are deployed overseas. They're deployed in LA as we speak. 432 soldiers are still deployed in LA, supporting our law enforcement partners both in Altadena and down in Pacific Palisades. So we're extraordinarily grateful that those young people signed up to serve. And I tell people that my sole responsibility is to make their lives better for having served. And that is the sole mission that I think about when I wake up in the morning and when I think about when I go to bed at night. I could go on, but I think that's probably a lot. If you'd like, I can talk a little bit about, I saw on the agenda, kind of what we did in the LA fires. We can talk very briefly about that if you'd like. So an extraordinary deployment for our Army National Guard folks. We put 200 soldiers on the ground in LA in less than 12 hours, 400 in less than 24. At the high point, we had about 2,500 soldiers and airmen on the ground in LA, and that was probably less than 72 hours. So extraordinarily elegant, I would characterize that deployment, and we're very, very happy how that went, and our ability to serve our interagency partners, be it LA County Sheriffs, Los Angeles PD, California Highway Patrol, LA Water Power, all those folks. It was an exceptional deployment in every respect, and we're hoping to slowly migrate out of that operation as conditions on the ground continue to dramatically improve. I think you guys also want to talk briefly about some cost reduction measures that the department's gone through over the last year or so. Through a couple of budget drills and in concert with the California Department of Finance, we were able to reduce our budget by about $972,000 and reduce 5 unneeded positions. But that's really just one part of a broader strategy that I implemented 3 years ago or so when I took over, to really take a look at top down and bottom up in the organization and look through it through the prism really of organizational discipline and accountability, and then governance. So how do we govern the department better? How do we ensure that we are efficient and effective? It's easy to make that case when we compare ourselves to our active component counterparts. We're 3 to 5% or 3 to 5 times cheaper to deliver the same amount of readiness. That's not an issue. So nobody's going to come and doge us per se, right? But we have a duty and responsibility that we're spending the people of the state of California's money more effectively, and we took a hard look at that, and I think we've got a long way. We've gone a long way in doing that. So, and then lastly, just to give you a sense of the turmoil that occurs in Washington D.C. and how that affects the California National Guard. We're about 7/8 funded by the federal government. 3/4 to 7/8, depending on the year. So things that occur in the federal government have an absolute effect on the California National Guard, without question. However, I don't see a significant change in the federal budget as it relates to the Cal Guard. What I continue to see year over year is the federal government's inability to pass a budget. So the National Defense Authorization Act has to be passed every year. It's not, there's no 2-year money, 3-year money, so we have to fight for a budget every year. And when we have continuing resolutions that now go on for a year-long continuing resolution, that has a deleterious effect on our ability not to secure the funds, but to expend them appropriately. You go to a CR, that's the previous year's budget, divided by the number of days minus 1%. So there's no new starts, there's no new money. You're living off of last year's funds. And that continues, is going to go all the way through in the end of the federal fiscal year. And what happens is we wind up cutting contracts at the very end. It's not an effective way to spend the people's money at all. And it makes it very, very hard for us to do the right things at the right time to deliver the effects really that we're looking for. So with that, I can take into those questions, and then we can move on to the budget items if you'd like.
Questions?
The issue of the budgeting in Washington, D.C., just to clarify, that's not a new issue.
No, it's not. Absolutely not. It happens every year to the point where we start to budget assuming CRs are going to occur. We start to schedule our training events on those specific windows when we expect the federal government to not fund us anymore. Yeah, absolutely, Senator. Not new.
I would agree that's no way to run a railroad.
No.
Me too. I agree also. Okay, thank you so much, Senator. Appreciate it. So let's move on to item 10 then, which is the governor's proposal related to the staff judge advocate.
Yes, that's correct. As I mentioned before in my opening remarks, talked about governance, talked about operational discipline and accountability. We took a hard look at the department and recognized that we had some glaring holes in our ability to execute governance within the department. SCIF claims that weren't adequately managed from a legal perspective, purchasing and contracting that weren't managed in an adequate perspective. So this request is for $697,000 general fund and 3 positions. And again, these positions are really addressed to the increased workload that we determined we needed but didn't know before we did the deep dive. These are hugely critical for the department, and they will ultimately save us money.
Hello. Vice Chair, any questions? So I'm just trying to understand the relationships to the existing base of attorneys, and I think if you've seen our subcommittee document, you may know the question was raised. There's a single attorney in the, or maybe among the judge advocates that are members of the California bar, and that is part of what's at issue here. Is that
So every attorney that we have that would touch the state of California has to be certified by the bar. We would have attorneys within our formations that would be doing operational law on behalf of the federal government, and they would not be required to be certified by the state bar.
And does it make it more challenging then to shift workload among people?
Well, yeah, and to a certain extent you can't, and you don't want to start crossing federal dollars with state requirements. That we need to do the best that we can to wall those things off. And it comes down to expertise, experience. It comes down to understanding how things work within state government. The folks that we would have in our actual tactical formations, that would be operational law lawyers, would have no understanding, capability, or capacity to execute purchasing and contracting, understand what a SCIF claim is, do those things that we need them to do in service of the state.
All right, thank you. There's no further questions on this one. We are going to hold that one open until our next hearing on the department. Next up is item 11, which is deferred maintenance.
Yeah, so this budget item, Chair, is $4.8 million general fund, and that's to replace 3 dilapidated HVAC systems at our armories in Azusa, Okinawa here in Sacramento, and Fresno Hammer down in Fresno. It also includes provisional language for an additional 6.3 general fund augmentation if we do not receive matching federal dollars for these projects. It's important to note that on state facilities, we get a 25%, so it's 25-75, 25 by the state, 75 by the federal government. On federal projects, on the state it's 50-50, I think. Yeah, it's 50% on Azusa and Okinawa, and 25% state match in Fresno. So if you can imagine, on these projects, the federal government, in some cases, picking up 75, sometimes picking up 50% of the cost. So it's extraordinarily the value proposition here is exceptional. But more important to that is our soldiers and airmen deserve to be in quality facilities where they are not sweating to death during the summer. And that's currently in these 3 locations is exactly what's happening. It's untenable for them to operate in these conditions. And I'm not saying that they can't do it. I've deployed people to the Middle East. It's hot. I recognize that. However, they deserve to have a good facility for them, and also for folks that want to join the Guard. Imagine if you walk in and you want to a recruiting office in one of these facilities and everybody's sweating with their shirt off. That's not a good look. That's not good curb appeal at all. So, and granted, to Senator Nilo's point earlier, my backlog repair and maintenance is $140 million. Okay, so this is not going to get at that, but this is going to take care of the soldiers that are in those organizations and in those facilities.
And what do you think our prospects are for the federal?
I think they're good.
When would we know?
Yeah, probably later in the spring when the 26th president's budget actually arrives in Congress. That's ongoing now. I was just in D.C. yesterday having this discussion. I believe that facilities, FSRM, if you want to call it that, will remain untouched. I think they recognize across the board in DOD that their facilities are hugely challenged. So I don't see a huge issue there at all. So I have a lot of other huge issues, but I don't think facilities funding is going to be one of them.
Say later in the spring, when you mean this coming spring?
Yeah, right now. Yeah, next couple months. Yeah,
which would be before this budget.
Do you think before May revise?
Boy, I wish. We'll let you know one way or the other. I know. Yeah.
Well, spring ends on June 22nd, and the constitutional requirement for the budget, which, by the way, is placeholder, but I digress.
Right, we just had that discussion.
Is 7 days before that. One would presume that we'd probably know before the budget is the placeholder budget.
Yeah, well, we'll let you know. Yeah, as soon as they tell us, we'll tell you. I promise, Senator.
All right. So that's why we're holding it open. So we will return to that item. Thank you. If there's nothing further. Did I already ask Finance and LAO? Okay. Item 12 then is Consolidated Headquarters Staffing Phase 4.
Yeah, so this request is for 2 positions, and 351 in 25-26, and then 347 ongoing. These positions and personnel will manage some highly sophisticated and relatively new critical facility systems that we have in the department, or at our headquarters, rather, in Rancho Cordova. We need these positions because of it's hugely important that we ensure that we maintain the integrity of these new systems and don't let them degrade, ensure that they're being well maintained, ensuring that they're working, ensuring that we are delivering on the promise of a zero net energy building, which we have now, ensuring that we're maintaining the LEED gold and LEED platinum standards that we expect to get out of those buildings. And again, to ensure that the facilities are right and appropriate for the soldiers and airmen that work there and our civilian employees.
Does the senator from Rancho Cordova have any questions?
I guess the only question will be, are we done? This has been.
We're done. We're done.
With those 2 positions.
We're done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's also a hold up open recommendation, but I'm also supportive of it as well. So we'll look to approve that absent other changes to the budget at the next time we take this item up. So item 13 then is Los Alamitos, the headquarters readiness center.
So that's $750,000 for advanced planning study for a new readiness center at our federal training facility, Joint Forces Training Base, Los Alamitos. That will enable us to compete effectively for military construction funding in the out years.
Finance?
Yeah, Isaac Arias with Department of Finance. I would also note that this request is a Armory fund, so it's not general fund, and so they'll be using the Armory fund for this as well.
So can you share with us what the
It is.
the status of the Armory fund is and the trends in it?
The Armory fund can support this, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. LAO? Senator Nilo? Anything on this one? And so with plans beginning in 2027, when do you, I'm sure it's here, but when do you anticipate construction and completion of the project?
It would be contingent on competing and securing federal military construction dollars.
Okay. And how confident are we that we would prevail there?
Your guess is as good as mine. The challenge with that, and
I hope not.
I don't mean to be flippant, but it's important to understand that I'm competing against 54 other states, territories, and the District of Columbia, right, on these projects. And the more elegant and the quicker that we can develop these advanced plans gives us a significantly better chance at securing those federal MILCON dollars. So without this, we're not going to get anything, be clear on that. But it's a competition, and California is a high-cost state, and it's a challenge for us, without a doubt.
Okay.
I don't want to sugarcoat it, because that would just be wrong.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything on this, Senator Neal? Okay. Then item 14 is the Star-based classroom building.
As I mentioned before, our STAR-based programs are wildly oversubscribed, hugely successful. They deliver improved test scores wherever they are stationed. STAR-based program is federally funded from an operational standpoint. However, the program needs facilities, and those are provided by the state. This appropriation of $419,000 in general fund will enable us to grow the program to primarily serve LA Unified down in Los Alamitos. Additional 900 students a year. Right now, the population that we cover is about 3,600 a year. This will be able to increase that by a factor of 900.
Finance?
Yeah, Finance would just like to note that this is for the working drawings phase, so construction requests would come in a subsequent budget year, so the legislature would have time to be part of that discussion.
LAO?
We have no issue with the program or purpose of the request, but we do have concerns about the out-year costs for construction. And since building codes change over time, any drawings that are produced now may not be usable by the time the state is in a position to pay for construction. Moreover, this request would expand services. Rejecting it doesn't mean they would go away. So we are recommending for now that the legislature reject.
All right, Senator Danilo.
What sort of measurable outcomes have you experienced from this program or programs?
Yeah, the specifics, we can give you the test scores that I mentioned before. We can provide those numbers specifically. But I can assure you that every class is wildly oversubscribed. So there's significantly more students at each of our locations than we have seats. And for that alone, I think is hugely important. The program that we started in Porterville, incredible. So they're getting CAD/CAM, rocketry, and this is not just STEM. Science, technology, engineering, math. In other places, we're doing STEAM now. So we're in that A, the architecture piece. So science, technology, engineering, architecture, and math. So yeah, the programs are wildly accessible. We can give you the numbers for sure.
Okay, I'd look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. We are going to hold this one open. I'm supportive of the program. I looked at the evidence. It's a solid program. I think the question is, our out-year commitments on the general fund we have to be very careful and prudent about those, and so really understanding whether or not in a year, if the next year's budget is actually what both LAO and finance expected to be, would we be likely to find the rest of the money for the project? And if not, then making the investment now for the working drawings might make us feel good, but it's not the best. That's not the most prudent decision. So to me, it's just a budgeting question as to whether or not this is the right year for working drawings, given what we're looking at the fiscal climate for next year. But that's the open question that we want to take a look at when we return for this item on vote at the next hearing that the military department's up. So.
And we have to actually pass a budget.
We do, and today we took some important 100 first steps.
Senator. You'll do it.
All right. Okay, General, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, do we have one more? We do. Sorry, we have item 15, the cybersecurity reimbursement increase.
One more, yeah. I'm sorry, you're right, one more. So the final budget request here is an increase in our authority to spend. So that's $8.8 million in reimbursement authority, and that supports the work that we do for the California Cybersecurity Integration Center and the California Department of Technology State Operations Center. We had, I think, $4 million in originally, and we needed to bring it up to about 12.8. That will maximize our authority. So it will put it at the level where we can actually execute it for a given state year. And it's hugely important, and here's why. The work that we do in the State Operations Center for the Department of Technology is that we manage that on a daily basis. We provide a lion's share of the work at the Cybersecurity Integration Center for OES, and we provide the vulnerability assessments and the penetration testing along with the Department of Technology across all of the executive branch of state government. And that is going through and ensuring that our networks are hardened, that they are protected against intrusion, that agencies across state government are doing their level best to ensure that they have the appropriate network hygiene, the appropriate back-end solutions to ensure that our adversaries can't get into our networks. That's why we need that.
Finance. The other guy always has something to say. I don't know. All right, LAO. Senator Neal. So are these services that you provide to OES and to Department of Technology directly, or are they contracted to a third party?
Under an interagency agreement, and so the vulnerability assessments, pen testing, and that all we do is fee for service. So the agencies are charged and we get reimbursed. Hence the reason we need the authorities.
But the work is done within the work itself is not contracted out to.
No, absolutely, we do it.
Okay.
Soldiers and airmen within the California National Guard are doing that work every day, absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we'll move to take public comment on the remainder of our items, which are items 9 through 15. Item 9 in the Department of Veteran Affairs, and all the remaining items in the military department, 10 through 15. Any member of the public wish to be heard on any of those items? Hearing none, then seeing no further business could come before the subcommittee. Thanks, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.